After over 50 years, Alfredo Vallejo continues to romance his wife, Alitza. Always, they woven gardens into a family album of raising children, losing parents, and gathering new friends. In 2017, when they left a beloved garden in the Houston area for brand new ground in Austin, it started another chapter in their book of memories.
The children had been wanting us to move from Sugar Land to here because they all live here. One of our children actually lives in the same subdivision. Our daughter lives in the subdivision right next to this one. My wife is not in very good health, so they come by. We first moved here, they had not finished the house and nor the houses around here, so I could see the dirt that was here, and they had used fill dirt to make the hills, but it's not good for gardening. It's the worst soil that you could have because it's mostly rock, it's chert. I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of shy about buying plants now because I realize that I have to dig a hole, and it's not easy. There was nothing in the backyard other than just grass. I've always found ways to eliminate the grass. In the front yard, I have just the two strips that are right by the curb, and then I have a very, very small little circle, and I call that my country club circle because it has that kind of a little putting tee look to it. The water in Sugar Land is much less expensive than it is here. Here, they almost kind of give you a choice of, do you want to eat or do you want to pay for water bills? Now I don't have to water as often because the plants are established.
But in heavy, fast rainfalls, they used to get too much water between the driveway and front door.
It was horrible because it was, full of water and mud. And then I said, here's a perfect space for a dry riverbed. I brought the big stones that you see in there. I brought those with me from Sugar Land, and even the black small river stones. That solved the problem completely. It eliminated, that water standing there. The neighbor right next to me has the exact same problem, and he's going to be doing the same thing to eliminate that.
Then he laid its rippling flagstone pathway. In the side yard, he patterned bricks. He carried them around along the back of the house. Originally, he wound bricks around the garden too.
And on both sides, I had blocks of limestone, and it looked good, but from the first time that I saw it, it just, for some reason, did not do the trick. And I looked at it and I lived with it for a few months, and then this spring, I said, okay, I have a different plan. So I removed all the brick, all the stone, and I started to put the brick down the path.
He found his yellow brick road of promise and discovery.
What I enjoy is being able to get a cup of coffee, and to me this is probably one of the most important parts of the day. I will walk through the garden and I don't have to get dirty or my feet wet or anything, and that has made my morning. I repeat that again every evening before it gets dark. And my wife always tells me, he says, are you going to go look at all your girlfriends in the backyard? And I said, yes, I'm going to say good night to them and make sure that they're happy and that they're, all doing well. I don't mind getting dirty. Let me tell you, I have some old blue jeans and some old shirts and my straw hat, and I get on there and I spend probably 40–50% of my time down on my knees digging up things and moving them. But I like to get dirty when I want to get dirty, not when I'm having my cup of coffee. When we moved here, the very first thing that I wanted is I wanted to have, another pond here. And there's something about taking care of a pond that almost makes you go back to the time when you were, a small child. I always feel like I'm actually playing in the pond instead of working on it.
In past gardens, Alfredo dug the family's ponds. This round, he let someone else pound through the hard rock.
It gives me a lot of pleasure. It's the little simple joys of life, I think, that make a lot of difference.
Alfredo embraces the hardscape with flowers and foliage, including richly hued cannas that he's recently come to love. In this new garden, already he's got divisions and cuttings to share with global friends and family. For 20 cousins, he even propagated butterfly vines for everybody. After Hurricane Katrina, Dr. William Welch took a cutting of a rose that survived in Mrs. Peggy Martin's Louisiana garden and brought it to growers.
I had a Katrina bush in Sugar Land, and I took cuttings and I brought them to my daughter and planted them here. And her Katrina rose is absolutely huge. It's beautiful. And when we moved over here, I told her, I said, now I'm going to need to get some cuttings from yours. And I did that, and I planted them, and I have them all around. They'll eventually cover the whole backyard.
Alfredo weaves the family's history into every step.
We have a pair of identical twins, so each one of those represents one of the twins. And we have snapshots of the children when they were little, smaller than the statues. The small boy, which is the youngest of the three, is Omar, and he's the one that's the little boy on a dolphin. And then off to the side, we have Jalissa, our daughter. And then on the other side, I have a statue of a cherub that I gave to my mother 56 years ago, actually, when I was still in college.
His maternal grandfather made the container.
I have a small concrete slab there that my sons gave me for Father's Day one time when we lived in Alabama. I went to work one day and they said that they didn't have any money to buy a Father's Day present, so they got together and they decided to build a large barbecue pit out of brick for me. And when I got home, it was already dark, and they took their flashlights and they said, "Dad, come and see what we got you for Father's Day." And I went out there and they had made this, they were like 12, 13 years old. So if you go through the garden, you'll find a lot of little mementos like that, because they're things that are special, and that's what makes, I think, a garden personalized. My wife was born and raised in Guatemala City in Central America, and her mother is buried there in a family mausoleum.
When the mausoleum was remodeled, they took off the marble slab, including the one commemorating Alita's mother.
And I asked my wife, I said, "Would you like to take that back with you?" And she said, "Oh, I'd love it." She comes out in the morning sometimes and she'll look at the marble slab and she will say a quiet little prayer. I've seen her actually walk up to it and touch it and just kind of like, she communicates with it. Although she says that she's not, a gardener, she has a real good eye for looking at things, very artistic, creative mind. And she'll come out and she'll bring me my big thermos full of ice water, and she'll look at something and she'll say, "I like where you had that plant before, or the way that you had it, in a container." In the front yard, there is a goose, a real pretty goose that a friend of mine gave me. And we've had him always in the front yard, but this time around I thought it'd be interesting to put him in the backyard. And my wife came out and she said, "Oh no," she said, "he's always been the person that greets our guests and kind of almost invites them into the house." I think that a lot of times we're so busy with other things that we have, problems and things like that, that beautiful, simple things like that just aren't actually appreciated.
To celebrate Alita and Alfredo's 50th anniversary, their son's band, Vallejo, recorded their parents' love song.
When we met over 50 years ago, we heard the song, we fell in love with it, and the name of the song is Adoro, and which means I adore. For 50 years, when I give her a card or I sign a letter, whatever, I always sign off and I put Adoro on there, and then my name. And so I thought that, here that we have, which will probably be the last home that we will live in, and we've done this garden pretty much together. I said, what would be more appropriate than to give the garden the same name of Adoro. I selected that particular rock and I brought it home and I painted it and put it right there on that little bench right in the middle of the garden. And then I went in the house and I called her out and I tell her, I said, "Look," I said, "this is your garden in your honor."